welcome to the Evolution of Dreams. This is a month-long program where we're looking at the dreams that we have as Ghanaians, as Africans, and how we can make those things manifest. We're also looking at, through these activities, getting a running endowment fund up and running at GIMPA so that we can have young people go to school. Very important. If you're educated, it's more likely that you can realize your dreams. Now today we're here at the Day Center, and the Day Center is one of the partners for the Evolution of Dreams, and we're talking about advocacy. And I think it's a right time to do that because there's a lot of advocacy going on in Ghana and on the African continent really at the moment. Everybody has their own problem. You know, in Ghana, our biggest one at the moment, staring us in the face, is Galamsey. We'll talk about that, but we'll talk about other things that people have been advocating for and how people are doing it through their own media and through the institutions and industries, the work that they do on a daily basis. My name is Apioko Sayamashong Abe. I am your moderator for today. I'm a poet, an author, a media practitioner, and a creative entrepreneur. Now, I'm not even going to waste any time. I'm going to get right into it and introduce our panelists for today in no particular order of importance. We're not standing on any protocols. Where there's advocacy, there's no protocol, okay? And first, I have Joseph Odro Frimpong. He's an anthropologist, he's a curator, he's an art collector, and he's an artist. And he's a director for the Center for African Popular Culture at Ashesi University. He uses art to present some of his research and his work, and he'll be telling us a little bit about his story and how he uses his platform to promote change. So, round of, at least those of us who are physically present, let's give a round of applause to Joseph. Next up, we have a very interesting artist, Bright Akwe. Now, he is the epitome of arts advocacy. And I mean, recently, I literally saw a situation, maybe I'll ask Bright if he knew about it and how he feels about it if he did. But I saw a book, very beautiful book that's been published, and Bright's work is in there. And because his work is so forward, there's a particular country that had planned to buy some of the books. And then when they saw Bright's work, they said, it's disrespectful to our president, so we don't want it anymore. And I was very excited when the publishers, you know, all those who were involved in the book's distribution said, okay, that's fine. We're not going to do anything about it because the truth is the truth and we're sticking to it. So Bright Akwe, we'll talk more about him and about, you know, the way he shakes power all over the world, sometimes without even realizing it. And we have two members of the CDD Demo Creatives, and CDD is another partner for the Evolution of Dreams. Now, what makes this collective interesting is that they are doing a lot of things with their art. It's a group of musicians, dancers, poets, I mean, any kind of artist you can think of. The Demo Creatives has a section of them in there. And what they do is they teach, about democracy and why democracy is important, but not in the way that it was handed over to us. Why democracy is important for us as Ghanaians and Africans, and how perhaps we should be taking it and using it to our own benefit. And the two representatives from the Demo Creatives, we have Yeye, in private life, known as Nyama Mensah. He's a musician, he's a Demo Creative, and he did perform at the launch of the Evolution of Dreams on the 24th of September. But he has a very interesting sound, very much Fela Kuti-ish, and we'll talk a little later. We also have a good friend of mine, Kweku Act, who is the founder of the Owl Hub, and he's a collaborator on the Demo Creatives, also does a lot of different things, and without even necessarily being involved in the art himself, he's a convener for artists and for arts advocacy, and I think that's also an important angle to the conversation. Now, we'll be joined at some point by Miss Earth Ghana 2024, Winifred A.C. Sam, and she will be telling her story, why she ran or why she contested for the Miss Earth crown, and how she believes that climate change advocacy is the way to go in 2024 and beyond. Gentlemen, and when the lady joins us, audience, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. So before we go, I myself have done some advocacy. There's a poem that I wrote, still talking about Galamsey and the times and just what I've been thinking and feeling. I've been following the Galamsey story through media work, artwork, since 2015. And it predates this government. That's why we say that this problem it's a Ghana problem. Yes, the people in the seat at the moment are doing nothing or not doing enough if they are doing anything. But this problem has preceded this government. It's been there. It's only now that we are shouting, so it's like, oh, okay, spotlight on us, but it's been there. So there are members of the audience and members of the panel who are going to read pieces of this poem. We're going to start with part 1 of The Gold We Cannot Hold. Yes, you're number 1, Dinah.
Thank you. Hello. So, Apioko, thank you so much for giving us, the audience, the chance to read your poem. The title of it is The Gold We Cannot Hold. And I read. I remember the river. It was clear once, a mirror of the sky, carrying fish and stories, gently bending through our village like the powerful, curvaceous hips of our mothers of the earth. Now, it runs thick, mud crawling through it like stinking, decaying, mutilated bodies, dry, decayed blood. The fish are gone, and the children sit by its banks, hungry, thirsty. They say there's gold here, beneath the trees we used to climb, under the earth that fed us. And in their hands, I see the promise of riches that don't belong to us. But what is gold? When the land turns to scars, when the forests fall, and the bears flee from the cries of machines, men have come to dig their graves, not knowing that they dig their own. They scrape the earth with rusted tools and blackened hands, leaving nothing behind but poisoned water, sinking ground, and a sky thick with smoke. They say it's work, but there's no life in this labor, only the death of a nation, which is choked by the greed that spills from foreign tongues into the hands of the desperate. Part 1.
Thank you, Dinah, for sharing part 1. Thank you. So we'll get into it as we go along. So let's go right into the conversation. And let me start with you, Joseph. Now I'm starting with you because there are many parts to you. There's academia, there's the hardcore artist in there somewhere, but then there's also the gentleman who collects art, curates art. So you're not just making it, you're creating space for it, and you're opening doors for other artists to be able to enter the space with you. How did you get, let me start with how you got into collecting. And I'm asking this because when we have conversations about art business, I mean, Bright is here, we talk a lot about how we need more Ghanaian and African, art collectors. Because we get upset when, 50 years down the line, or, for some of us, 70, 80 years, we were not born then. But now, we walk somewhere and we see an art piece from a Ghanaian and we're upset. But where were the African collectors then, So we talk about that, and I'm curious to know how you got into collecting art.
Okay, so I think it all began in about 2018. Just say 2018, sorry. 2008. 2008.
10 years before 2018.
Exactly. And I was in grad school in the US, and I was supposed to come to Ghana to do my field work. So in Chicago, somebody prompted me to an exhibition going on in a gallery, and the exhibition revolved around hand-painted movie posters. So it was a 3-story building filled with these posters. And when I got there, I was like, wow, these are the things that I grew up around or with. So if I come to Ghana, I'm going to delve into it. So I came to Ghana, but at the time, I didn't have money, so I wasn't able to get any. Fast forward 2012, I come to Ghana to teach. At that time, I started earning some money. I found this guy who had a collection and was ready to let it go. And then I bought all of those. It was about 120 pieces. I'm like, I don't care. At the time, my wife, okay, she's not here, she'll be here. My wife was a little bit, what are you doing? And I said, no, I know what I'm doing. Let me get into these things and buy them. So I bought them. Later on, moved on to collect hand-painted barbershop signs. And, and the goal was to use them to teach. So this was the genesis, and we can talk about other things, of course.
Right. Beautiful. I think that deserves a round of applause. And I'm saying that because when we think of art collectors, well, not us here. I think we know better, but a lot of people feel, oh, why are you collecting art? What are you going to do with it? How much art can you have on your walls? But that's not what it's about. It's about more than that,
No, not at all.
So you're going to use them to teach.
Mm.
Now, let's talk about teaching and your research.
Okay.
How does it intersect with art?
Okay.
You're an anthropologist, an artist, but when you get into the classroom, you're typically not teaching art
No.
in that sense.
No.
So how does your work intersect with art?
Okay, so trained as an anthropologist, but one of my key research areas deals with African popular culture, right? So these collections revolves around African popular culture media, and I use these artifacts to teach these students, how should I even put it, that these things are good to think with. I think in our educational training, we are trained to look elsewhere and grasp on things and think with them. But in my classroom, I said, look at political cartoons, look at vehicle inscriptions, for example. When you talk to these drivers who have these inscriptions, these are highly creative individuals. They delve into their experiences to craft these sometimes, they have grammatical issues. But that's not the point at all, right? So in a sense, I use these artifacts to teach Ghanaian students and indirectly also prompt them to respect these folks, because whether we like it or not, in our environment, if you're educated, you are the intelligent one. If you are not, then you are looked down upon. So I use these artifacts as a way to let my students appreciate these artworks, as a way to think with, and indirectly also to respect these folks that are not educated.
I mean that's brilliant. You've actually partly answered my next question. I was going to ask you how you use art in the academic setting to promote social change. So I'm just going to piggyback on what you've said. You, through your work in the classroom, what you're essentially doing is getting a whole generation of Ghanaians to respect humanity.
True.
And it's something that culturally we've been taught not to do subconsciously. You know, and you mentioned if you don't speak English in a certain way, then it means you're not intelligent.
Exactly.
You know, but forgetting that if you're to engage the person in their own language, the kinds of solutions and ideas they would proffer, you probably, with all your degrees, had never thought about them.
I have no clue.
You know? So let's talk a little bit about that. How important is social change for you and being able to disseminate the pieces of it the way you do in the classroom?
So fortunately, my school has established the Center for African Popular Culture, which has the space to exhibit some of these things. So the first exhibition I did revolved around political satire on the continent. And I showcased the work of, how's it called? A guy whose name is Michael Soy, right? Michael Soy, that, you know, he does these satirical pieces. Within that same space was a work, pieces of work by a guy called Edem Yabua. And Edem is a self-taught artist. If you look at it, they are highly exquisite works. So I bring these students in to think about even the notion of what creativity is, right? And to, again, prompt them to look at what has gone into this work. That, as you already pointed out, you can have all the education you want. If you're not trained in that direction, you wouldn't have a grasp as to how to do it. So I do it both in the classroom, you know, through the scholarly material that we read, and also bring them into this space where they can engage with these tangible objects, right? Visual, as well as these, you know, sculptures, etc. So I do it in both ways, engaging with the scholarly work and then coming to the gallery space for them to look at them and then talk about it and say, with even your Ashasi education crowd, you can't do this, and therefore, you know, garner this kind of respect for these folks as well. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, but I don't want you to answer it just yet. I want you to brood over it, and I want all of us on the panel to do that as well. You teach at Ashasi University.
I do.
Now, I went to international school. I went to some international school. It's where I did high school. And I've discovered, I actually went back to teach as well. You know, it wasn't part of the plan. That's a story for another day, but I did. And I realized that when you find yourself in certain spaces, you know, more privileged spaces, you know, sometimes you tend to be more conscious of some of these things, you know. And I want to know why that is so, because when I talk to my friends who didn't go to school in such spaces, sometimes they're not thinking about the things we are thinking about. And I'll come back to you because I want to know why it is. I think it's a very interesting paradox.
You're
because if you're in a privileged space, you're supposed to be disconnected, right?
True.
I mean, all other things being equal. So I'll come back to that.
All right.
Okay, let me go to Bright. Bright. Sometimes I see your work and I'm like, oh my God, please protect him. Don't let them arrest him today. Don't let them accuse him of defamation today, you know. But then I see and I'm happy because I feel that if you're an artist and you have such a powerful tool in your hand, such a powerful platform, you actually have no choice but to speak the truth and to expose what needs to be exposed. How do you feel about your work? Is it difficult? Sometimes are you scared when you're doing what you're doing?
To put it simply, yes. There is the whole range of emotions attached to it, because you cannot predict how the audience would receive whatever it is that is the vision you are putting across. So, yeah, there is always the whole range of emotions, but I try to manage them and, you know, keep making work.
So let's backtrack a bit because I've been following your work for a long time, long before you started becoming an award-winning artist, you know. But your work used to be a little softer, and I can't pinpoint the exact moment when it became so revolutionary, you know. But what has your journey been as an artist, and what have you experienced along the journey that got you to that point that said, no, this is what I have to do. I need to do it this way.
Um, there have been different experiences that have shaped um, what I make now. The primary blame would go to the exceptional work that older colleague artists have made, because I always say without the foundations that they laid, I probably wouldn't be making what I'm making, just because I wouldn't think it would be possible. So older artists have like provided all the warrants for someone like me to do what I do. And
Like caricature Seju and
yeah,
co,
yeah,
you know.
like I mean,
He's
you
a
know
whole
them.
institution.
Yeah,
All my peoples.
all the people. I always like to give props to the FOKM boys, because their music was very pivotal in giving me that kind of confidence. Um, I've worked with this gentleman here on my right several times. You know, yeah. So there's been so many um, exciting experiences. I can't even begin to name all of them. But there is always that burning desire that the art needs to be bigger than just myself, and be more than like self-indulgence. I am a firm believer that artists owe a certain responsibility to the society that they participate in, and what I do with mine is only me trying to fulfill that, a certain small part of that responsibility. I think there's so much more that can still be done.
What are the things that, so when you're producing any given work, how does the inspiration manifest itself? And I'm asking this question because sometimes, a lot of artists run with the time and the tide. Oh, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so let's talk about breasts. Oh, it's Christmas, so let's talk about Christmas, But with you, sometimes you're talking about specific issues which they're literally staring us in the face, but nobody's necessarily talking about them at that moment. Everybody has sort of maybe forgotten about them or hasn't noticed. But then Bright shows up with a piece, and it's like, oh wow, why aren't we talking about this? So at every given point when you're creating, what is inspiring the manifestation of your work?
I think a lot of what I do is inspired by conversations that I participate in, either actively or that I like to listen to people a lot, or read people's thoughts on social media. Like, social media for me now is like a diary, and everyone would like to document their opinions in some way or form, and a lot of the times the inspiration comes from this space. Also because in the past, art would be conceived from certain sources that are considered high or elevated or privileged. And so the art would end up looking a certain way and giving a certain kind of experience that maybe not everybody who is not from those privileged spaces would connect with. Whereas now I would look for inspiration intentionally from sources that maybe in the past would be considered vernacular, because I think the stories that come from there are also worth telling. Often you find they are even more exciting than the more curated, sanitized versions that have dominated the art-making space for a long time. So it's an intentional effort to go left when everybody else is going right, because, like some of my mentors, teachers have taught me, the art is more exciting when it is, made that way. So
Yeah.
it's an experiment that we are all trying.
Spoken like a true advocate. So let's hear part 2 of The Gold We Cannot Hold, and then I'll come over to Kweku Yeye.
Okay. Our father's fields are gone. Our mother's cocoa is burdened with the guilt of betrayal. For the cocoa pods turn their backs on Mother Earth, on the mothers whose wombs grew them. and whose labor birthed and nursed and nurtured them. The human beings are chasing gold, so why shouldn't the cocoa yearn for greater things too? But there is silence from those who should roar, those we trusted to guard our land. They sit with folded arms as the rivers turn to sludge. Their promises are sinking in the very mud that suffocates our children. They say they see, but they do not act. And so the water is choked, and we are drowning in our own thirst. We cry out, but they tell us to be patient, to wait for solutions that never come. The land is bleeding, and still they do nothing, while the vultures circle, fat on the carcasses of our future. And it is not just the foreign hands that dig, but our own, our brothers, our neighbors, our prayer partners. They have sold their souls for a coin that crumbles in their grip. Where are the leaders when our rivers die? Where are the protectors when our land burns? They sit in their halls, in their seats which have been decorated with the taxpayers' sweat and sorrow, while we are left to choke on dust and promises that we cannot swallow well. The water that once gave us life now drips poison from our taps.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we'll come to part 3 soon. Sometimes when I hear the things, I'm like, oh, did I write that? Because where I was when I was writing it, where I was, Okay, Kweku, let me come to you. Before we even talk about the demo creators, when I met you, you were curating a number of artistic events and, promoting them. And then all of a sudden, I was like, this guy's, he's gone renegade, He's really advocating for a lot of interesting things and pulling artists together to do it. So let's talk a little bit about your artistic journey, because I know that you weren't even always based in Ghana for a while, but now you're back. And you've come back at a time when people are jackbuying left, right, center, So what are your inspirations and what have your experiences been with advocacy and particularly with your work in that regard?
Thank you for the welcome as well. Well, my journey, brief potted history, I was born in the UK to fancy parents who decided that it would be better for me to be raised in the UK by white English parents. So I remained in the UK and then lost contact with my fancy parents for 16 years. So I was reconnected to them via the Salvation Army, and I came back to Ghana at the age of 26 because I learned that my maternal grandmother was getting weary and I wanted to meet her. And so that was my motivation. And when I came, it was like, whoa, this is home. And so I, fast forward 20 years almost, created a collective called OWL. And our strapline is always home. And the whole idea behind the collective is the elements that I consider to be home, which is to have boundaries, which my white Irish mother gave me, plenty, which is to be held to account, but to have lots of love, to also be able to be yourself, but also to respect others, to share the pot, and also to stand out. You're not your brother, you're not your sister, are really the elements within OWL. And so the vision is a place where everyone experiences home. And for me, there were 3 pillars, the things that really I'm passionate about. That's 1, wellness, because I believe that's the pillar for our creativity and for our contribution. 2, leadership and learning, transformation. That's actually what I'm trained to do. So I'm an experiential learning teacher. I'm a learning and development practitioner. And then the arts, visual arts and performing arts, which is something, as you know, that I really love. And I just admire its power to move things. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, that's an interesting story. Round of applause for a very interesting story. And I find it interesting. I know there was a whole generation within a generation that did things like that. That, oh, we're in Abrochi, I have a white friend, so we raised my daughter and my son for me. With my father-in-law, he, I mean, born in Ghana, Dangme man, but was raised by Swiss parents. Yeah, and so went to Switzerland at a point, but that happened. There was a lot of that with a certain generation. So I found that your fancy parents, also did a generation with someone who is a descendant of that. Okay, but let's talk about how you got involved with the demo creatives. Okay, because doing your art and doing AWO and all these other things, that's one thing. But now saying that, hey, I'm going to join a collective, that is under an umbrella body that's as powerful in terms of speaking truth to power in many ways as a CDD. How did you get involved in that, and why is that an important thing for you?
So my relationship started with the wellness aspect. Um, okay, yeah. Started with the wellness aspect of AWO. So AWO provides wellness services for CDD. And so I got to work with the wonderful team there. I think Jonah just entered the room, Dr. Santi, Professor Prempe, Professor Jima. They were all people who I worked with their well-being. And through our conversations, they learned that, oh, you do a lot around learning and empowerment. And so the journey I've been on had me learn how to use theater, visual arts, music, as a way of engaging communities and a way of giving them a voice. And like my friend here was saying, the people who are not educated to have very deep and very articulate conversations can express deep and articulated things through their body or through words and through pictures. And so we'd had this discussion, and when Wadamos came, that's the West African Solidarity Network, came to being, we actually decided to offer one of our mediums, which was dance, for the launch. And so I think that people's response to that performance with a duet, which I think was Kofi Black and Addis Ababa, amazing dance artists in Ghana, where they told their stories, had CDD go, ooh, okay, I think this is part of what we want to champion and support. And so fast forward 2.5 years, and we became partners, and we partnered them at the launch in Nigeria, and we did some facilitation on the day using dance and using theater techniques to explore democracy.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Kwek. Let me come to you, Yeye. Nyama. So as for you, when I met you, you were still Nyama. You weren't Yeye yet. You hadn't, transformed to become Yeye. And you're one of the most talented crooners I know. You can play many instruments. You teach music. But then, in recent times, you've become a lot more radical in your music. Yeah, even the way, no, because when I met this guy, I was wearing fedoras and, kaftans, looking like a nice, MP maybe, or.
I know, right?
You've gone back to the cowries, to the beats, barefooted, to the togas. So how did you get here? What birthed this character?
Thank you. So, personally, I don't know how I got here. Okay, I feel there's a spirit hovering around looking for some kind of medium to just express itself. So, as time goes on, you begin to, discover who you really are. The truth is, I'm someone who is impressed by a lot of things. And always I want to, do something that I'm interested in. Okay. As soon as I see that something looks so beautiful or something is a little captivating, I'm like, hey, I'd want to do that. That's the kind of spirit I have. When I see an artist, I want to be that person. When I see an actor, I want to be that person. When I see a poet, I want to be that person. And so it just happens that I'm everywhere and I'm able to, fit in. Sometimes I call myself water. You place me in any container, I would fit in. And also looking from the background I come from, is like the survival of the fittest. People see me and they think I'm some kind of DB guy, but I just try my best to, portray the kind of I make people believe what I want them to believe so that I get what I want. Yes, so how I got to this point, like I've said, I'm still discovering myself. So probably I may change. So take me as I am now. Yes, so yes.
How did you get involved with the demo creatives?
Oh, that was should I say divine intervention? Because I went for a program, a music program which was called On the Stage, where I went to discover or enhance my skills, my musical skills, and this was facilitated by Susan August, who is a very great musician, and also yourself.
Yeah, he
And
was my student a few months ago. He was.
yes, and many other great personalities. So I think we had to demonstrate or exhibit what we had learned on the stage, and I was privileged. I was privileged to perform at the Zen Gardens where Dr. Asante was present. And I think I gave a sterling performance, which, gave me this opportunity.
Now, opportunity presented itself,
Yeah.
and you took it. But now that you are actually living the opportunity,
Right.
what do you think the importance of what you're doing and what the demo creatives are doing as a collective is? Why is that work so important?
Yeah, so for me, I believe their main aim is to voice out what people what people want to channel to the government. And they believe I have a right medium to also channel that. And music as an art is one of the best ways to, strategically send information to people that you don't really get into trouble.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I think they've discovered that in me, and um I'll do my very best to, do it right. Yes. We don't get into trouble.
Thank you. A round of applause for you. Who has part three of the poem, The Gold We Cannot Hold? The floor is yours.
Our mother's pots are filled, but what do they hold? These women drink from poisoned streams, and their bellies swell, not with life, but with death. They are impregnated by dangerous chemicals that rape them from within, and they give birth to children with twisted limbs and broken lungs. And we whisper about witchcraft. We speak of curses, afraid to call it by its name and appellations. Greed, neglect, a nation devouring its own. And still, we are told to wait. Wait for justice, wait for change. While the water grows darker and we are drowning in the silence of the powerful. But we are not silent. We scream, we march, we raise our fists and our voices. But they do not hear us. They block their ears with gold and their eyes with lies. When we protest, they send their soldiers in cowardice, not to protect us, but to crush us, treating their own people as enemies of the state.
Right. Thank you, Brian. Let's go. I mean, it's a hybrid event, so let's go to the screen. That, I don't know, the gods make work. We have Miss Earth 2024 on the line. Hello, Miss Earth. Earth to Miss Earth. You're muted. Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Hello,
Hi, there you are. How are you doing?
I'm good, please. How are you all
I'm
doing?
well. Here you're not feeling too well.
Please, yes,
Anyway,
please.
at least we're grateful for the power of technology. You can still join us.
Yeah, and I'm so glad and honored to be a part of the panelists for today's event.
We're
Thank you so much for having me.
We're grateful to have you as well. Okay. All right. So let me just ask you. There's so many pageants, that I mean now we have to even count so many pageants. And of all the pageants available, test in Miss Earth Ghana. Why? Why Miss Earth Ghana?
Okay, so I was actually crowned as Miss Earth Ghana 2024. There was no competition, but I believe that the owner of the franchise of Miss Earth Ghana, Miss Earth Ghana, saw my work because I've already been contesting for other pageants as well, and then she saw how dedicated I am, how I sacrificed, and how persevered I was. So I was reached out and then I was crowned as Miss Earth Ghana. Aside from that, it is actually something that I was so honored when I got the message from her. I was excited because it has been my passion to be a beauty queen, and not only aside from that, but also I believe that being a beauty queen, you have the voice to advocate for what you are passionate about. So I was born in a small town called Salt Pond and was closer to a sea. And growing up, I saw, although we had like a very clean environment, but I saw how people used to dump refuse in the sea, how people defecate around the shores, and also it is something that I really despised it. Excuse my language. I really despise it, and so I really wanted to have a voice, advocate for a lot of things, to educate people about the implications and all that, how to keep our environment clean and all. Yeah, so that's actually my reason for being called as Miss Earth Ghana 2024.
Wonderful. Now, let me find out from you why you wanted to be a beauty queen. And I'm asking you this question for two reasons. One, we're here at the Evolution of Dreams. And anyone who is on this bandwagon for this series of events believes that whatever you want to be, you should be able to be. And that includes being a beauty queen. But there are also people who in society feel that there are more important things to do. Why should people be paying attention to, a beauty pageant? So for you, what was it that really made you want to be a beauty queen?
Okay, so I'll always answer my question by starting a story, saying a story or telling a story. So when I was young, I was bullied a lot in school by my peers for being skinny and tall. I was bullied a lot, and I remember always going back home from school complaining to my mom how my peers are bullying me and all that. Like the stigmatization was a lot. So I remember one time my mom was so tired of the complaints, not because of the complaints, but because of the constant bullying in school and all that. So she sat me one time and told me that she asked me this, that do you know that with how you look like you can become Miss Ghana one day, you can become American Next Top Model, like when you go out. So she was saying that my physique is something that can make me more money. So if I'm not aware, she's telling me. So that was it. And from
God
that time,
bless
that
your
state
mom.
really changed.
God bless
That
your
state,
mom.
pardon me.
It's like we're clapping for your mom. Your mom is a good mom.
Yes, she is. She is actually. So from like that statement that my mom made me have this confidence out of nowhere. And I remember anytime I go back to school and my peers are starting to tease me, calling me names, I'll tell them that that with how I look like I can make money out of it. So what can you bring to the table? Like, from how you look like, you are not going to get money. So, in order to say something for them to feel bad about themselves. And that was it. And it stopped. It stopped actually. And, during my childhood days too, people, aside from me being bullied, I was loved a lot by my society, by people in my society, in church, in school at the same time. And I was always in the spotlight, not because I loved doing that, but or I wanted to be in the spotlight, but it was something that it came naturally. I started by performing. Like I was a poet when I was a child. I'll be saying, reciting poems in church, reading the gospel in church, in schools, like till now. So it is something that I've had the passion. So from what my mom said, or from what my mom told me, so my mom was always forcing me to watch beauty pageants. I started by watching Miss World, Miss Universe, Ghana's Most Beautiful. Until date, I've been watching Ghana's Most Beautiful, and I haven't stopped. So it is something that from what she told me and she asked me, it has been like in me. It has been within me. It has been my passion. So yeah, that's actually. And I believe that being a pageant queen, people are able to listen to you, are able to hear you, whatever that you want to say. By educating people are going to listen to you. So for example, I went to Jamestown some time ago, about 3 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and we were going to do cleanup exercise. So when they saw me in my sash, they read, it was like, okay, Miss Ghana 2024. They asked what we were going to do there, and we told them that we are here to do like cleanup exercise, to clean the shores, like around the shores, like it was very dirty, so we were there to clean it. And trust me, people came from their homes to join us to do the cleanup exercises. So that is, I mean, the impact that comes with it from being a pageant queen. People are able to hear you, people are able to listen to whatever that you want to say. Like people were very busy, they were doing their own things, but when they saw us, or when they saw me, they asked our purpose for coming there. I told them our purposes, and then they joined us. So I believe that by becoming a pageant queen, you are able to lend your voice out there to people, to listen, to educate people, it's basically that's it. Please.
Shit, they saw a fine girl. You think they shouldn't come and clean with her? But that is remarkable. That is remarkable. And to all your classmates, let's get their names. Bryce will draw all of them, and we'll go on a campaign and tell them, look at her now. I'll come back to you.
Oh, let me say this. Since I became a pageant queen and all, some of them, those who used to bully me,
Now they
they've
are your
been,
friends, eh?
yes, yeah, they're actually my friends. They've been posting me and all that. And I remember one time, one of my, my classmates, who is a guy, he came to me and he was like, I remember these people, they didn't really like you. They were always teasing you, pulling your legs and all that, like making fun of you. Right now, they are posting you on their status, and he kept on asking them, like, you didn't like Winifred. You were always bullying Winifred. So how, like, what? why are you doing this now? And that's like, it's all good. It's all good. At the end of the day, I was able to accomplish my dreams, and yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how life is. And as my husband would say, just achieve. Oh, so my husband calls me baby. He said, baby, just achieve. Oh, he achieve. Oh, everybody will look, just achieve. Winifred, I'll come back to you. Right, let me
Okay,
come
please.
to you. Now, I think that visual art, and whether it's painting, now there's digital art, now there's AI, imaging, all these different things. Visual art is something, it's one of the arts, maybe next to music, it's one of the arts that people can connect most easily to, right? But your work stands out. How do you do it? I mean, of course, we know that you're digging deep and you're presenting real, relatable things, and that would be one reason. But how do you do it? Because I believe in the power of the creator, right? So I believe that when an artist creates something, they didn't just do it for doing sake, even though there are those times, But how do you do it? What is your creative process like? And how do you separate a very nice, beautiful story on a canvas or in your medium that you're working with from a hard-hitting, serious social commentary?
Wow, this is such a huge question, and I hope I can summarize by saying that there are different parts to me as an artist. And fortunately or unfortunately, for the last couple of years, the audience have only been introduced to one part of me.
They don't know the romantic you, eh?
There are so many other parts of me, And yeah, so often I'd have to maybe switch my mindset to be able to make work in all these other modes. And it's also because naturally I'm interested in so many things. It's inhibiting to narrow my whole interest down to maybe say just social commentary or political satire or landscape painting or anything else, But or yeah, maybe something like what we have up there, which I was only discussing with Joseph today, is one of my.
Hello?
Not many people attribute it to me because that is not what I've shown them actively in the last couple of years. The question again was, what's the process?
Yes, what's the process?
What's the process? I have been studying art for a long time, and I'm very much a fan of it. So I'm interested in learning as much of whatever I can come across just for myself. Even last night when I was in the studio working on my painting that I'm working on right now, I needed a certain technique to be able to capture a certain feeling to it. So I had to go online and find, new knowledge. So for me, it's always the constant learning. Also because there's a lot of fun for me in the process of the making, which maybe not a lot of the audience can get because often they would see a finished piece but not the process. The process is for me, and then maybe the finished piece is for all of you. So there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of constant practice, a lot of learning of new techniques, new mediums, because I don't want to ever feel like I am on autopilot or that I'm stuck, because I've had that a couple of times before and it's not very, very nice. So it's always constant moving, constant learning, reading, engaging with the audience, engaging with people who I can learn something from. So that's a very important part of the process for me. And then also there is the long hours that I dedicate to making my work. So I believe my next piece is always going to be my best piece. I have that mindset. So once I make a piece and I put it out, I'm already thinking about the next one, which I know it's.
I mean, as an artist, you're only as good as your last performance.
Yeah, and I sometimes I think if this is the last thing that I ever make, it's probably going to be how people remember me forever. And so even as I'm speaking with you right now, I'm thinking of the next thing I'm going to make, which I know is going to be like the. No, don't be sad. Just be like excited, because it's going to be something that, you know, I always want my work to take people to a place they haven't been before, expose them to something they haven't seen before, and I think doing that elevates the craft, because there's a part of me that also feels like I'm making work for my colleague artists, because I want to also motivate my colleague artists to, you know, push themselves and, you know, them push me. So it's also about elevating the craft and so many other things. But it's like the constant excitement and always trying to push the envelope, either in the technique or in the medium or in the bravado or whatever at all it is that I'm engaged in.
I'm picking out a few things from this. Hello? Okay, there we go. Picking out a few things from this. So the constant learning, right? Spending long hours or dedicating time, not necessarily long hours, but time to make sure that you're developing the craft and you're actually creating. You're not doing microwave work. None of that. No microwave popcorn here. No. You actually go and harvest the maize and dry it and make the popcorn yourself. Okay. And then also working towards pushing the envelope, elevating the craft. So this is, it's not just about you, it's about the industry, it's about those after you. Yeah, and I think that's a very important point. You know, a lot of artists tend to think about themselves. Oh, what would they say about me? When will I too be famous? When will I too win an award? You know, all of that. But forgetting that at the end of it all, if you make it good for everybody else, you get noticed anyway, right? You know, I think that's an interesting point. I'll come back to you. Kweku, let me come to you. Now, you work with a collective. How difficult is it? And when you talk about advocacy and you talk about groups, and you've seen it with organized labor this week, right? Everybody agrees, oh, this is what we are going to do. And then somebody think, but I don't agree anymore. Oh, I don't believe in this anymore. Hey, my pastor said that if I come and say it, next week will be a bad week for me. You know, how do you deal with a collective in terms of keeping the vision at the center of what you do so that the advocacy can form the way it has to?
I think one of the things that holds it together is the idea of creating a common language. So a way that we can all understand and agree we're going to describe and deal with things. So one of my favorite aspects of what I do is conflict transformation. I call it transformation, not resolution, because we might not always resolve it.
Being diplomatic, are we?
Yes. But I've been blessed in my career. I was able to work alongside Archbishop Desmond Tutu for a short time in South Africa. And when he came to the UK at that time, traveled with him to Cardiff and different places. And I learned so much from this guy. First thing was that people often used to say I'm too light when I'm dealing with difficult things. And when I met him, I realized that, oh, that's my granddad, because he was so playful. And I think play is at the center of helping people to manage difference and also challenge. So if we can keep things, sometimes keeping things light and doing things that make things common, like having a game or dancing or drawing together or going to a gig, can help us to be able to deal when we're dealing with very heavy things. And then when we're in the conversation, we can get underneath what it's about and be able to have really real conversations. And so there have been really hot topics and conversations that have happened, and people can handle it because we've gone on a journey together that's enabled us to kind of really be honest and keep it real. That's one of the things.
I think that's a brilliant point, and I think it's a very interesting way of looking at it, because when you think about it, adults are the ones who cause all our problems. Children are playing and they're being honest with the world and they're experiencing things from a very clear and open perspective. And then when they lose that innocence and they become adults, some of them become nasty. And then they give the whole world problems. So I think that that's a very interesting way of keeping the focus together when it comes to advocacy, because advocacy does deal with difficult things, and people are coming from different backgrounds, have different convictions, subtones, sub-feelings, sub-spirits. Spirits are inhabiting people and demons inhabiting them, So I think that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's take part 3 of, it's part 4. We've done part 3 already. See how time flies. Part 4 of the gold we cannot hold. All right. So this is the final part.
This part 4. Even when we are peaceful, even when our anger is calm as the rising tide, we come out in force, shells and batons, while the rivers run red beneath our feet. This is not what we gained independence for. This is not the dream that Nkrumah spoke of. This is not the reason for our sacrifices or hope that brought our people back home. This is not the Ghana we repatriated for. We came back with hands ready to build, dreams of rising roots. But the land we came to save is devouring us whole. This is not a vision. This is not the reason why they left foreign lands. With hearts full of hope, to do their bit to rebuild the soil of our ancestors, only to find their homes sinking into greed. And now we watch as the diaspora, those who dared returned, are betrayed, while the ground beneath us lifts away. And so the seas have turned to dust. The air is heavy with things that we cannot speak of. This is no longer a home. It's a wasteland which we must leave. A place where the ground swallows everything that we love for a glittering good which cannot hold.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's the gold we cannot hold. And for those of you who are just joining us online, we're here at the Evolution of Dreams at the Day Center. And of course, cameras, lights, action are making it possible for you to join us here as well. We're talking about art and advocacy. And not just that, but advocacy in its entire spectrum. What is it? How do you go about it? How can you use your own space, your own voice, your own platform to advocate for the things that matter to you, but also for change for your society and for your nation? That's what we're talking about. Yeah, let me come back to you.
Yeah.
So let's, when you are, a lot of the time when people think about music, it's one of two things. Either it's very beautiful lyrics that will make your heart beat kunkumcha and things, or it's a support. You can dance and you can wind your waist and grind somewhere in some corner, something. So sometimes when chord progressions, different sounds are put together, for somebody who doesn't have a very trained ear, you may think, what kind of music is this? Do you get that reaction to your music sometimes?
Oh yeah, I do. You always have to know your audience. So, like you said early on, you've known me in different spaces. And by God's grace, because of that, I have.
See, we even went to perform at the immediate past diplomatic nuncio's house together. Yes, yeah, we went to sing Easter hymns together. Yeah, and I.
So yeah, it all boils down to knowing your audience. If you and the great thing about being an artist is you always learn on the grounds. You cannot be perfect from the onset. So anytime you go for a program, you study your audience and you know what to give them the next time you appear. Yes, so that's it.
That's interesting, very interesting. But let's talk about the kind of advocacy that you're doing through your music. I mean, there's lots of Africa in there, there's lots of wailing and gnashing of teeth. You know, what's going on? Where is this coming from? What are you feeling? What do you want to create awareness about with this new dispensation that you find yourself in?
Yes.
This current dispensation.
Current, thank you. So yeah, so my kind of music we would call the classical Afrobeat. Okay,
So not Afro beats, but Afrobeat.
Afrobeat. Thank you. Yes. So Afrobeat. Yes. Who we believe Fela was the pioneer. Yes. So Afro basically means African. So yes, and the beat rhythms. And with my kind of music, I'm trying to make sure we maintain our tradition, the African traditional values. So you would find out, for my costume, I'm in some African prints and some African accessories. So I'm trying to promote the African, side. So in my music, I'm promoting language, I'm promoting culture, I'm promoting dance. Yes, so you find every element. From the African perspective in there. So that is what I seek to achieve, for us to go back to our roots, for us to not forget our roots as Africans. And we the youth, we are being brainwashed. Most especially if I would be very blunt, okay, our educational system is brainwashing us. And we need mediums like the music, we need mediums like the arts, to help us get back to the roots. So when you see an African painting, when you see me in this costume, you are tempted to ask where this is from. And in fact, when there's this song I have, Mama Africa. When I started with that song, I wasn't sure how I was going to be received, because, like you are saying, I wasn't like this, okay? But I personally faced some issues, some social issues, and I needed something to voice or vent my anger. So I'm like, okay, I think this is what I can do best, music. So let me try my best to put it in, So, music is a repository for, information. So let me store. So music for me is more like my diary. Yes. So I talk about social issues. I talk about political issues. See, job no day. We no get money, we go take job. How can you be gentle about this? You understand? You cannot be gentle about this. About 15,000 people from one institution will complete, and after knowing how to express yourself in the best way, you don't have a job, and you don't even have a mouthpiece. So I'm here to be that mouthpiece. You understand? And I'm learning in the process, and I just hope God holds my ground, to do it best. Last 2 years, okay, why is a youth employment agency? They had a job fair at Accra Conference Center. They said they are going to provide about 1 million jobs. And about 3,500 people showed up. Okay. And for that particular fair, see, we act as though we are okay. But when you are on the grounds and you are experiencing the real deal, you know that Ghana will suffer. And a lot of musicians are gentle about it. A lot of people who have the mouth, a lot of people who have the influence are quiet about it. And we need the youth to rise up and do something. So if I would be an example, let it be. Yeah.
I love it. Round of applause. Round of applause. If you'll be an example, then let it be. Let it be. I like that. Let me come back to you, Joseph, and we'll wrap up this conversation soon and also bring in the audience, including those online with us. But, you know, you touched on education and our abysmal educational system. You know, yeah, I said it. It's quite abysmal. Yeah, I said it on bigger platforms, so I really don't mind anymore. You know, but Joseph, you are in academia, and I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, especially with popular culture, because you also touched on the fact that culture is a way of educating our young people. If you can't necessarily do it through the formal, structured means that was handed to us or that has been refined over time, then culture and popular culture, for that matter, becomes important. So I'm wondering, the images that you share in class, that's great, but what about bringing in people? Does that happen sometimes as well? Do you bring people who are engaged in popular culture, who are icons of popular culture, to also interact with the students? Is that something that happens or that you're planning to do?
Yeah, my educational practice involves this active, let's call it active bringing, for lack of a better phrase, of practitioners to the classroom. When I started teaching, the very first, artist I brought to my classroom is this gentleman who sits on my left, right? So I saw Bryce's work, and I'm like, this guy needs to come and speak. And I think I brought you to campus 2 times, whilst other colleagues have also brought you to campus. So Bryce is one, the artist known as Davi is one, Daily Graphic. I've brought Konimo to campus. So not only did he give us a performance, the legendary Konimo. So not only did he perform, but he also gave, a lecture actually. And for those of you that don't know Konimo, when this guy speaks English, you think he cannot speak the local language.
Mm-hmm. And vice versa.
And when he speaks Akan, it is kind of like the royal court, Akan language. Anyways, Bessa Simons has also passed through campus. So I say all this to say that I bring in scholars, I bring in practitioners, and I think it's important that we bring all these people in to come and have, good engagement with students, so that they know that the Ivory Tower is not the only location for being educated. Full stop. The other thing I just want to say, which is not connected to what you asked, is the recognition that we have to realize that our educational system is a colonial educational system.
Absolutely.
And we need to break that. And for me, one way of doing that is to teach the courses I teach, and also to do the type of exhibitions I do, which is non-commercial. As I mentioned, I have different collections, and I show them to people at my own cost, because I think it's important for people to engage with these things, and also perhaps to indirectly inspire people to begin to collect. I collect those type of artworks that are deemed not important, right? But in doing so, I also show them to people to indirectly inspire them to collect, because we don't want 50 years from now to make the same critiques that
to rent our artwork that was birthed on our land.
That's right.
For
That's
a
right.
few months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And perhaps in that same breath, we should also encourage our artists when they do exhibitions, the commercial exhibitions, of course, to have the normal price there, but also give us that leeway, Ghanaians, Africans, to contact me like, we know that this was $1,500, but what is the Ghana price?
Ghana price and foreign price.
Because
No,
we need
yes.
to own some of these things,
No,
right? We need to
it's
own
true.
some of these things. So anyways, I'm going on a tangent.
No, it's
you
true.
know.
No, just thank you for saying that. I mean, I do a lot of commercial performance, right? You know, when you're an artist, some of the things that you do, so in order to do the advocacy and do it without being attached to someone's purse or wallet, you need to generate your own income to be
True.
able to do those things, right? And so we do a lot of commission work. I wish Nana Sasi were here. He's also a partner for the Evolution of Dreams. We do a lot of commission work.
Yeah,
Now, when we are doing international commission work, the price tag is different.
that's right.
In fact, even in Ghana, we leave way for negotiation. Sometimes even just leave it open
Yeah,
and ask the client, what's your budget?
that's right.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, if your budget is maybe 2,000 cities, then maybe it means that I can't bring a whole band to come and perform with me, because you also need to sort out every artist who's
That's right.
a member of the band.
Yeah.
But at least I can come and stand there with my voice and my paper, whatever it is, and deliver the performance
That's right.
for your budget. And I think we have to be open to that. So thank you for it's something that sometimes we're afraid to say, but that's the truth. And I tell artists when I engage with them, you need to be open. Now I'm going to switch to my media hat because I
sorry.
know Dinah wants to talk about activism and advocacy in media as well. And I'll start from that point. At Channel 1 TV and City FM, if you study us closely, 98% of our content is generated in-house. And it's not that we wouldn't like to take content, because we do want to promote local content, so from other filmmakers, whatnot. But there are two reasons why we struggle to do that. One, the quality. And we have a lot of international licenses, international partners. We distribute broadcast internationally, so you can't compromise on the quality. And we are sort of victims of our own success. So because we bash governments, they don't give us any leeway when it comes to paying our statutories, taxes, license fees, all that. We don't have the space to say that, 6 months we'll come and pay. No. Even when there's room, it's on a very strict, segmented payment plan, So we don't have the space for that. That's one angle to it. Now the other side is when we are speaking to the creators and we tell them, oh look, the sound was not too good, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They don't like the feedback, many of them. Now the other side is they want you to pay to broadcast, which ideally is what it should be. But Ghana has not reached the point where we're doing proper syndicated media. That's the official term for it, where if you look at the US, look at even now Asia, especially India, you look at the UK and many parts of Europe, even South Africa to some extent is getting there, where when a filmmaker produces a series, a network can buy it, So you do maybe your theatrical release, and then after that, a network or a streaming platform buys it, and then you've made your money, you've got your investment and more back. We haven't reached there. So media houses ourselves, even now figuring out media business.
That's right.
It's, again, a problem. I maintain that one of the main reasons why we struggle to pay journalists well is because a lot of media houses are not running media businesses. It's just, I have money. Let me open a radio station, a TV station. I'm a politician. Let me go and push my own agenda. I have plenty businesses. If I have my own media house, I can promote my own thing. I don't have to give the money to somebody. That's a lot of the thinking. And then it's a very young industry. Probably as old as Joy FM, which came to being in 1995. So that's less than 30 years old. Prior to that, it was a state of the nation and no one else. Yes, that's it.
Radio GL.
And that is why coups were very easy. You capture GBC, make your announcement in Rawlings' voice, and that's the end. Now it's not as simple, So we have, if the media entities are suffering to even make ends meet, you hear the stories, and it's true, some media professionals haven't been paid 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. And sometimes, yes, it's mismanagement, but a lot of the time, really just the money is not coming. If Ghanaian businesses are not doing well in a difficult economy, then who is going to pay for ads? That is really the traditional media business model. You buy ad space, you broadcast your ads, you pay the media platform, and then they in turn get some money. But now things are changing. There's social media.
That's right.
There's YouTube.
That's right.
And every YouTube channel is a TV station on its own.
That's right.
There's podcasting, all of that. So if you don't have any real constructive or creative way of making money, then as a media house, you're not going to have much of it. So the filmmakers, content creators, you want your work to be put on local networks, but you want to charge the local media the way you charge Netflix if Netflix did call you and they are not calling. So I look at collaborations. At Channel 1, we don't really do children's programming, and it's because it's difficult. That's a whole different technical area of media. Everybody wants to do everything. We are doing everything, but children's content, we believe that you can't compromise on that, because if you mess up the child, that's detrimental to the nation, right? So we don't go there, and it's also expensive because you need more animation. Bright does a little bit of animation. Animation is not easy, and it's not cheap. And it's not cheap because it's not easy. You're creating a 30-minute cartoon that can take 5 years for 1 or 2 animators to do. We don't even have a band of animators. You see Disney, and they are churning out movies every month, a new movie. You know how many people they have there? So I also want to say that even on that side, content creators, artists, be gentle with media houses. Somebody says, I want to promote my music, and then you tell them, okay, we are not going to charge you. If the music is good, it is good. Of course, you can talk about Paola and all that. That's a different world. But generally speaking, if the music is good, we'll play it, If you have a great story to tell, you've been on Channel 1 many times. Kweku, you've come along, right? Come yet, but you'll come soon, But have we charged you where you've come? No, and we also can't host everybody, but at least if the thing is making waves, it's great advocacy, it's great work, we want to project it. That's also our way of advocating for the culture to be projected, right? Now, we have some artists who come and say, after everything, hey, then you have to pay us. So I'm like, do you know how much 5 minutes of my airtime costs? We have rate cards. The fact that we didn't give it to you doesn't mean that we are okay, And the way media is costed, you look at, if your one camera breaks down, most of the time, the person who needs to fix it isn't in Ghana. So you fly that camera out, if it's a Blackmagic camera, if it's, a high-end DSLR, you fly that camera out for someone to repair. You're not even paying that in cities, and that's your main tool for broadcast. If a little bit of water or too much humidity gets onto a TriCaster or any of our broadcast equipment, then a lot of the time, if you're not careful, you have to buy the whole thing. And that's tens of thousands of pounds and euros, and not even dollars. We're not even talking dollars, because most of the time, where we are, the kind of equipment we need for our terrain, in terms of our bandwidths and all that, our airwave distribution and all that, the US is too big, too wide, so you have to go either to the UK or to other parts of Europe. So I'm also not saying that, creators should be exploited. I'm in no way preaching that, but I'm saying go and strike a business deal with a media house and let them know that, okay, you know what, if I give you this, let's sign all the contracts, property rights is still mine, intellectual property, all that, you've spoken about it. And then you should also maybe promote on your platform, because now you have my content as part of your repertoire, but I can also benefit from getting airtime to promote what we call pre-promos outside of the airtime of my content. You know, so we should be smart and pitch great business deals. And I think that if we do that, then we can go a long way. But I'm going to just very briefly speak about advocacy in media. It is not easy. I remember in 2019, my boss, Samens, our CEO, he's a very interesting human being. A lot of people, MPP, and so Samens will tell you that if you're an educated human being who has been to school, by all means, you should have ideologies that you align with. But your ideology should not affect your objectivity. And that's why known MPP member as he is, or supporter as he is, sometimes when the issue gets, he himself will come on air and talk about it. His way of saying it is, oh, don't worry, me, I'll say it for them to hear, And that's the kind of advocate and visionary that has groomed us in media. I've had people on the site, oh, hey, you people, can you even say these things? Because I say in my head, you don't know. He's even the one texting Bernard to say what you should say. He's even the one telling him that, no, go this way, And for us, we believe that no politician is feeding us. Nobody is paying our salaries for us. In fact, they run away from us because they're afraid that we'll ask them questions that they cannot answer. So they deliberately don't come. Whenever you see a politician on a Channel 1 or City platform, it means that they want to come and rebut something. They realize that, no, the people are jabbing us too much. And sometimes when we hear them speak at their press conferences or on other media platforms, we know that we can actually tell. So we can say, oh, Joseph, this one, you said it last week, they're talking to you. Oh, Bright, last week you said, oh, no, it's for you. Mine was week because we were speaking about Galamsey during our newspaper review segment on Breakfast Daily on Channel 1, first show. And I had said that the deputy, so first I had spoken about the fact that the politicians are saying, no, we shouldn't ban small-scale mining, and that we don't understand that there's a difference between illegal small-scale mining and small-scale mining. I said, who told you we don't understand? We know. My grandfather was a goldsmith. Now, I never met him, but he passed long before I was born. But I grew up understanding artisanal surface mining, and that was not what we're seeing now. That was not it. If you go to Deo Gratis, oldest photo studio in Accra, 102 years old now, you go to Jamestown, it's there. The third generation is managing it now. There are pictures up there that are taken of the headpans and, the community mining the gold. It's not Changfanzo. No. So we've seen what it has become. And all we're saying is, as a nation, things have changed. We've left for too long. Things have become out of control. So let's stop. Let's breathe. And then let's decide that now this is what small-scale mining looks like. This is what mining looks like. This is what large-scale or high-license mining looks like. And so for this matter, we are classifying, and you need XYZ to be able to operate. That's all we are saying. But because they want to hear what they want to hear, they're in a hurry to fight. So that was my argument on air. Next day, Deputy Minister of Lands and Resources says, and people are saying that we should do a blanket ban of small-scale mining. And do you know the economic implications it will cause? And going on and on and on. So I said, oh, this one is for me. I'm coming. So I went back on air, another newspaper review segment, discussing it with the host of the show, David Kwekusechi. And I said, you know what? The minister should come again. With all due respect, he should come again. And you should come again because we know that if we ban galamsey, any kind of mining, beyond the major mining companies and what they are doing now, it will cause grave economic issues. We understand that. But we cannot all suffer because government after government failed the youth and didn't provide them with jobs. We can't. You can't. So now should we say that, okay, armed robbers too should go and be robbing because they too, they need money. And somebody should walk around and shooting people because, when they shoot, they get 10,000 cedis. No, what are you talking about? How can you even say this? So you should come again. Then that's it's like you realize that Charlie, if as we say in Ghana, hey, it didn't land well. Then President of National House of Chiefs to King. So Nana, you have brought yourself. We are coming. But that's the position we take. And for us, we go hard hitting, but you realize that we're also often quite diplomatic. So it's that kind of thing that before you realize that I've told you, we have already done it. Now that makes it like, let me change this microphone. The microphone is dying. Galamsey is killing it. Said the micro. Okay. Before, sometimes yes, hard hitting and all that, but sometimes you realize that once you go on air, a lot of people are listening to you, and as for us, people are always throwing lawsuits at us. All the time. You just don't hear about it. So we are very careful about what we say, because you don't want that at the end of the day, all the advocacy you're doing becomes marred by noise, and then it defeats the purpose. And now because we have digital media, social media, if you're not careful, by the time the noise gets out there, it becomes the story and the fact before you can even come and, address it again. Now, 2019, Samant, my boss, he traveled with some of our colleagues. This is just before COVID. He discovered that, but the people said that we are not producing enough local rice. But is this not the paddy rice that's rotting by the roadside? We have more than enough. We haven't understood the value chain, and we are not doing what we need to do to get it where it needs to go. And we're not promoting it. So came back, and then he did his popular tweet that he's going to be the ambassador for local rice, for Ghana rice. Then the people started shaking and quaking in their boots. And the way it works, we usually know that when someone sees something, there's something that he's seen that we may not have seen, but we don't even question it. Once it sounds like Ghana, rice, we'll jump on it. All of us. That's how we operate. And that's what I was asking about the collective. One movement, one vision. Whether you're behind the scenes, whether you're on air, whatever it is, everybody knows that this is the goal we are going for. Once it has to do with Ghana, pushing for something, we'll do it. So we all jumped on board. Some of us brought us bags of rice, and then some of us took the rice home and went to make different things. So they tell you that, Ghana rice is too watery. You can't use it to make fried rice. We made fried rice. Ghana rice is this. That's not nice when you use jollof. We made jollof. You can't do, it's only the tujimi that's good for wache. We did single rice wache, Ghana rice, all of that. And then invited people to come and taste it. But when they were coming, we didn't tell them it was Ghana rice. And then they all got to know it was. Then we did our first Ghana rice fair. And, it was a whole big thing. Now, we said that we're going to actively promote Ghana rice brands. And this is where the tough times come. Companies that have been advertising with us for years said, why are you giving them free airtime? We sell rice. It's imported, but we're paying you, so we're withdrawing our ads. More than 50% of our revenue. Yes. But we said, okay, it's fine. We'll stay the course. And we did. Yes, and we did. We stayed the course. In fact, we went on air to say it. And these brands have come back, by the way, after a while. You understand? But we need people to understand the fact that you need to make space for promoting what is Ghanaian. after, prior to we had This Is Ghana, our very first This Is Ghana fair. So This Is Ghana, we're saying This Is Ghana, so we have seen it because they think it's just, and without any disrespect to our artisans, the bracelets and the woven bags, but people are doing things in this country. Electric cars being assembled here. My house, so my husband and I, what we decided is that we're going to do only solar. It's a young guy who is under 30, and he controls our solar panels from his phone in his house. He can tell us how much electricity is left on our grid if he feels that today it's rained, right? So not enough sunshine. From where he's sitting, he will migrate one appliance onto the main grid so that it doesn't put too much pressure on. This is a young Ghanaian guy. He didn't go to school abroad, nothing. So because we don't know, we think Ghanaians are not doing it. And because of our ignorance, we feel that Ghana and everything we do is inferior. But when you work with these things and you get to understand, you realize, no, they're actually even producing for our terrain, for us, with us in mind. Lately, people have been asking me, hey, what do you do to your skin? Because I've been walking around feeling cool without makeup. Sometimes I even go on TV without makeup. What did I do? I stopped using imported products. That's it. Everything I use for my skin and my hair is natural. That's it. It's as simple as that. From the shea butter, I realized, okay, I'm lighter skinned, so the shea butter can sometimes tan you, especially when it's very hot. So cocoa butter is what I use. I started doing research on vitamin C serums, and then there's a young lady I met. She's a nurse, and she said to me, I met her somewhere. She said, Auntie, you know what? I want to do a skincare brand. And I studied chemistry in school before I went to do nursing. And I want to do a skincare brand. And she's very light, an law girl. So she said, I want to do a skincare brand and focus a lot on light skin because we don't need to be using the Ivorian bleaching creams and all that, because that's how people who are a little lighter are maintaining their skin. So I said to her, you do it. I'll be your guinea pig. And that's what I use. And what she can do is look at you, Bright, your skin, the issues that she perceives with your skin, and then she'll formulate for you. Look at you, Joseph. Oh, you seem to have a little bit of hyperpigment, whatever it is. You're hairy. We don't want your hair to fall off. Not we'll formulate for you. And that's what she does. So, and we have a bespoke culture. Nobody wants to wear the mama that somebody wore. No, we all want our own style to come through. That's actually how we are. So why can't we carry that into other aspects of our lives? And so our advocacy in media has been about that. Even beyond the news and the current affairs, if you watch our programming, listen to it, you realize that even the entertainment, we are advocating. We are talking about policy for creators. We are talking about why GRA will come and stand at, you didn't help us pay for the event. Government didn't give us any grant. You've staged an event or an exhibition, then they'll come and stand at the gate and be collecting tax. We have all these conversations. I host a cooking show. When you watch, you realize that it's about, first of all, highlighting Ghanaian ingredients. Why can't we use yam to make our own version of mashed potatoes? There's an episode that I saw yesterday, is going to air on Tuesday, and the Chef Mami Wachu came. She made a 3-course meal, all based on wagashi. Yes, Ghanaian, African cheese. So you like, very interesting. Why can't we do? And then the conversations we have. The show is modeled around the fact that in our culture, we sign business deals and solve problems what's the word? Transform conflict at the dinner table. When we are sharing the fufu and we are team, the kenke and all that, that's where we talk. Because when you talk, the person is happy, the food is there, so you can even slap them and they'll say, okay, slap me and give me another bowl of kenke, right? So we have also conversations at the table while we're eating. So if you watch carefully, you see it's all very light, but we're actually hitting at things. And sometimes we even reserve those platforms for certain conversations instead of having it on the point of view with Bernard, where everybody is conscious and they're wondering, how is Bernard going to handle this thing? And they are ready to fight. But you will miss it on what's cooking because there was food in the mix. but we've said it and it's gone. So media and advocacy is not easy. It's very difficult. Sometimes you want to interview certain people. They are the newsmakers. They won't come because they're afraid that you put them on the spot. Some people will not do business with you because they feel in the past you said something or you wrote a story that was detrimental to me while you didn't know. We're just presenting the fact. And so they won't do business with you. Some people also feel that, oh, these people, they're always advocating for things, so it means they have money, so we just won't give them any. It's difficult. But beyond that, we found ways of generating our own income without compromising on the advocacy that we do. And if you come in and you don't have an advocacy mindset, to work with us is actually very difficult, because every time we're on tenterhooks, ready to chase the last thing. I'll just talk very lastly before I go around again, because I don't want to talk again after this. When the Volta Dam spillage happened last year, it's actually been just about a year now. And when we discovered what the gravity of the situation was, colleagues said, no, we have to do something about this. And some man said, okay. He actually wasn't in town. He had gone for a conference. And he says, okay, if this is what's happening, go ahead. I trust you. And that's also the leadership. In advocacy, in media advocacy, if you don't have from top to bottom, people who believe that everybody is going to do it for the greater good, it won't work. Otherwise, every time you're being censored from within. And if you're censored from within, it will never fly as advocacy in the first place. So he went, and then he came back, went into the communities, and realized, I know this thing, the politicians said they are going there, but we didn't see anybody where we went. In fact, the roads, some of the places, the roads were so bad that you couldn't even call them roads. It was really just molds and mounds of clay. And I wouldn't blame them for not wanting to drive there, because our buses got stuck, our trucks got stuck. At a point, Samens himself now was using his four-wheel drive to shuttle staff to and from the different points. People were sad, people were traumatized by what they went to see, because beyond that, you get to, an area and the place is flooded, and you can see that people are trudging through water that has covered a cemetery. Yes, and it's entered your house. Then we went with the doctors, they identified the psychiatric mental health issues. That is Mental Health Week. Mental health issues that the people were dealing with. Some of the older people dealing with hypertension, and they'd never been on medication. All sorts of things beyond even the flood. And then we said, you know what? These communities, many of them, after the dam was done, Nkrumah had plans of building resettlement communities. But of course, the coup of '66 happened, and nobody went back. Look, there are certain places like Senchi. Everybody likes Royal Senchi. It's bougie, right? But Senchi is a creation of the Volta Dam and Lake. When it happened, there were displaced peoples, and so he had to create Senchi for some people to go and live there. Yes. So there are lots of communities like that, and many of them have never received a decent community development plan beyond what Nkrumah would have done. So some of we built resettlement centers, some of them are temporary, some we've done schools, we've done homes, all sorts of things. And corporate Ghana, oh my goodness, people are donating as much as 2 million cedis. And then the government was getting angry. Why are they giving them the money? Who are they? But when you have credibility and over time you've walked the talk and you've talked the walk, people trust you. And so when you're advocating, they may not jump and shout with you, but from the back, they'll support you, they'll push you, they'll shield you, and that's what we experience a lot of the time. A lot of the time. I can't tell you in just this sitting what our advocacy has done for people, and in turn, the blessings that it has brought our way and made our business flourish. Because somebody said, at a time when I needed help, you spoke up for me, so take this. I see our building, do this. It's happened so many times. So that's advocacy in media, and, in a nutshell. In a nutshell. So I want us to wrap it up. Is Winifred still there? Winifred, are you there? Miss Earth,
I am.
is she there?
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Winifred, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can.
Okay. If she can't, I'll come back to her. But oh, she's on. Winifred.
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Winifred.
Hello, I
Hi,
can hear you,
Winifred.
please.
Okay.
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Great. So I want to ask you a question. So you have been advocating around climate change. And
Yes, please.
you know, climate change is a very big concept. And I feel
Yes.
I'm sure you in your work, when you travel around Ghana, you realize a lot of people don't even understand what it is. Even in Accra, you know, people with their big certificates, some people are not getting it. You know, so how challenging has it been for you to get your message across when you move to let people understand that, you know, what's happening on that front in terms of climate change?
Okay, so I'd always say that people believe what they see, not what they hear. So, in order for people to understand what the implications of climate change or the impact, the negative impact on climate change, you need to be an example. You need to do something for them to see that, okay, this is what is affecting us. If we do this, this is what is actually affecting us. And my advocacy is all about, you know, yes, I am how we can fight climate change. And some of the things that we can do to fight climate change is by planting trees, by reducing waste and all that. So in order for people to see that, what exactly are you doing for them to understand? How are you educating them to understand what climate change is all about, or the effect of climate change? What are you even doing in the first place? So I started by planting trees we went to Akwemuman with the Akwemumahine to do some tree planting and all that. And when we got there, people who came, you know, everyone from the community, like they came and saw everything. We explained, we educate them about, you know, the usefulness of planting trees as well, and also reducing waste. By doing that, like I said earlier, people believe what they see. How are they going to reduce waste? Because, you know, we are used to, you know, all this plastic waste and all that. When you drink water, you just dump it somewhere because you believe that it's refuse. You know, there's no need for it. So for me, it hasn't been challenging, like since I started. That's why I said earlier that people like to, you know, believe what they see. When you give them an example, they are able to understand it, you know, by not just like telling them to do, but, you know, by doing it for them to see. So for that reason, to reduce plastic waste, right? I decided to come up with something, you know, in order to let people see that, okay, when I drink water, what is the value? You have to let them know the value. So let's say, assuming this, I just drank it tonight, man. So let me use this as an example. So this can, you know, you can make treasure out of this plastic bottle, and by making a treasure out of it, I decided to make this beautiful art piece. I hope, can we see, please?
Oh,
Yes.
we can see. That is
Yes.
pretty.
So as Miss Ed, these are trees. I used plastic bottle tops and then straws to make them. So these are trees. You can see it here. And then I used the plastic bottle tops to also make the branches and then the leaves and all that. So when you do this and then you show it to people, people will see the usefulness of plastic waste. You know, that's a treasure right here. I can put it out there and then sell it. I can make money from it. So not just telling people that, oh, you don't have to, you know, like it is not good for you to, you know, create so much waste and all that, but you have to tell them, okay, this is the value. People are able to see the value of this plastic bottle. I made this beautiful art piece out from this waste. People you can just throw it out there, you can just throw it away, but I decided to make this art piece for us as an example. I'm not really good, but
It's a beautiful art piece.
Thank you so much.
Even
And
Bright
that's
agrees.
the first time, yeah, that's my first time doing that, painting, and I used poster colors, sustainability. I'm also all about sustainable, or sustainability. So yeah, I created them with the things that are around me, poster colors. I'm not using it again, so I decided to use it canvas. I have straws, and yes, and then the bottle tops as well. Yeah, so it hasn't really been difficult for me. Like I figured out something that I can make it, easier for myself by being an example. When you become an example, when you show them this is how it works, when you do this, this is what you are going to get. And yeah, by doing that, we'll be able to fight, climate change. Yes, please.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Winifred. Oh, you can clap for
Thank
her. All right, so we're going to wrap this up soon. Before I take final words from our panelists, does anyone in the audience have anything to say? And that includes you who have joined us online. Anyone? Okay, Dinah.
Thank you, Apiako. Thank you so much. It was an enlightening discussion. I'm wondering, I know you and I spoke about the poem that you wrote, and part of it is your costume. Could you sort of talk more about that? I know we've learned different ways of the advocacy, but I thought it was important and it adds value to what we read today, and also the aftermath of Galamsey. For me, your poem was meaningful, like I said, because there's so much rhetoric about Galamsey, but your words resonates with everyone, mothers, children, people from the village, the urban centers. The words sort of remind us, it's a reflection of what's to come if we're not careful. And I think your costumes sort of add value to that. So could you talk a little bit about that? Thank you.
Absolutely. So let me just say something briefly about my poetry in general. Now, I studied literature, and I studied literature from Shakespeare to John Donne and the others we call the metaphysical poets, and the language is very high English, very high language. But I also studied under Professor Kofi Anidoho, and I was blessed to have Prof. Awuno pass through my life. The late Professor Tukwe Okan was one of my mentors. The late Professor Amataidu, I had the chance to touch her, speak to her, drink from her pot. And there, even Wole Shoyinka, Ayikuyama, I was just very blessed to have these people. Now, these people believed, they're post-colonial writers, and they believed that we needed to write, even if you're writing in the colonizer's language, in a way that our people can understand it. And so, for example, Prof. Anidoho would use a technique that we call appropriation, where you appropriate English or French or Portuguese or whatever it is and use it in your own way. Now, Prof. Anidoho is an Everman, right? Very proudly so. And he has one poem, The Place We Call Home. You see something like evening time. Evening time is not English. But what he is actually saying is a zame. When we say a zame and eve, it's not just about the darkened sky or the time on the clock that is 6 p.m. or beyond. It's the fact that certain birds come out at that time. Children are doing certain things at that time. Mothers are washing their pots and killing the embers from their coal pots at that time. It's a very loaded word and concept. So just saying evening is not enough. Evening time. We say outdooring. Outdooring is not an English word. It actually doesn't exist. You're either doing a naming ceremony or a christening if you're doing it a religious way. But when we say outdooring, for the guy,
You are bringing the child out for the world to see. Now you can touch him or her. Now you can interact with this child because they've lived for 8 days. And customarily, we believe that that means that the child has come to stay, right? The gods, the ancestors intend for the child to stay. So when you write these things in English, simple language, you don't need to sound like, I think that even now a lot of English children are not very excited about Shakespeare because just the language has changed so much. So that's one thing, and I think that poetry should be accessible to everybody, okay? Now about my costume. This isn't even the full thing, but the dying matriarch, she has a vial around her neck that's full of water, a mixture of water from the different river bodies that have been affected, and it's very tight around her neck because we're being choked by the action. My hair is perpetually red. And the other day, Kafui Day made me expose why it is red. So I'll share it here. Now, red is a color of passion. Red is a color of constant chobui. I'm always on the move, always fighting, And I dare you to tell me that what I'm saying or what I'm doing is not what it is, right? And then it's also a lot of women, there are many women you discover even now when they wear red lipstick, they think about it a lot. Like, is it going to be too bold? Are my lips going to be too prominent? I don't think twice about it. I wear the red. So it's also a way of me projecting my femininity, not hiding between the hues of the whites and the reds in pink, but putting it boldly in your face in the red. All of the passion, all of the seduction, all of the sensuality, all of the madness that I am, you take it. Now the black, mourning. Now black is actually one of my brand colors. I typically wear black because, we think a lot about white as being the convergence of all the colors, the color wheel. But black is too, and when there's not enough light, then, or is that not it, artists? There's not enough light, then you're not seeing all the colors. But black has a lot of colors, and so it's a symbol for me on a daily basis and a reminder of always having to look deeper to find all the different treasures, all the different stories within the story. I keep myself grounded in that way, But for the dying matriarch, it's also, of course, the color of mourning. Mourning, and in our culture, Ghanaian culture, black.
Recording in progress.
You are mourning. And so we are mourning our lands, we are mourning what we are doing to ourselves, we're mourning this thing that we've allowed to fester for so long. I've been following the Galamsey story personally, very actively since 2015. 9 years later, here we are. Why? Why? And now people have built economies around it. And that is why it's also so difficult to stop it. Because you think, yes, but I went to a cocoa community last year, and almost all of and when we say that women, cocoa farmers are mostly women, we don't see it, but that's actually what it is. They're mothers. They've tilled the land for years. And all these women, many of them 60 plus, they are lamenting because their children have told them point blank that, you know what, you said we should go to school. We went to school. You said we should be obedient. You said we should go to church. You said we should do this, we should do that. We have done all that. Are we not still poor? We are going to do the galamsey. You are old now. As for the cocoa, we are not coming to farm it because we don't see any. We never tasted chocolate until we went to university in Accra. And now we understand what we were producing. So as for the cocoa farm, we won't do it. We'll sell it to the galamseyers. And they're dealing with this guilt, So when we say the mothers of the earth, and what they're dealing with, it's not just Mother Earth herself, but also the mothers of the earth and what we have done to them, and the kind of legacy that we have inadvertently also forced them to be a part of, having that blood on their hands. And a lot of them are asking, could we have done something better? Should we have spoken up about certain things? But really, what could they have done? Who would have listened? So that's the dying matriarch, that we're killing Mother Earth, we're killing our mothers, the stillbirths and the unfortunate kinds of births that are happening as a result of the galamsey water. It's not just the galamsey itself, but it's also the fact that even in our taps, and if we're not careful, we'll be experiencing it very soon. As far back as 2019, the Ghana Water Company told us that at the time the turbidity of the water was 14,000 when it was supposed to be only 5. So they're using more and more alum to purify the water. More and more of their machines are getting broken down more often because they have to. I mean, the water isn't supposed to have that much silt in it, but it does. And it's affecting the turbines of the machinery. And so we'll get to a point where they'll do what they can and move on. Because if we increase water prices to Ghanaians, will say, hey, why? You know? So thinking of all these things, and now we've got to the point where it's not just the metals and the repositories of the chemicals from the galamsey itself, but the reactions that are happening between those chemicals and the chemicals that we are trying to use to purify the water. They're affecting us adversely. And then you have the galamsey itself going on, but not all illegal mining is being done in the water. The more dangerous thing that's happening is people are mining maybe 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers away, then they come and do what we call mineral washing in the river. So they carry what they've mined and come and wash it in the river. And then the most annoying thing of it all, the illegal loggers, the people who fell trees to put it on the timber market, they realize that everybody is talking about galamsey. So if we cut the trees, they'll say it's galamsey, so let's go and do it. And that's also a canker, that's also, so it's a multi-layered problem. And I just feel like for any mother who has to watch, any matriarch, watch her legacy die in this way, I mean, she has to mourn. She has to mourn. And that's the character that I've carried with the poem. No questions? Contributions? Delusions? Delusions? No? Okay, so I'm going to take final words from our panelists. I'll start with JJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So final comments, I mean, or thoughts about the things we've spoken about today, you know?
Yeah, so for me, I have learned a lot, and you see, like I said, we as creatives, we have a lot of work to do. And you know, when we started this discussion, I made mention of a spirit hovering around looking for mediums, you know, to express themselves. Sometimes you feel like doing something, but there's something stopping you. I'm here to tell you to just do it. Do it. If you don't start, you can't move. Every journey begins with one step. If you don't start. For me, in my position now, trust me, everything I've said is from this place, is from my heart. Like I said, I didn't know I was going to get to this position. There has always been the edge of me, you know, busting out, you know, just being who I am now. I've always wanted to be who I am now, frankly. Like, the spirit in me have always wanted to be who I am today. So I just feel that spirit hovering around has discovered that and is helping me, you know, with others to, you know, make this happen. So please, just do it.
Kweku.
Thank you. There's two things. You spoke about the experience of finishing your tertiary education and then knowing that you weren't going to find work in the everyday settings like you were promised. And so I think one of the things about advocacy and young people is that there always has to be a reality around entrepreneurship or income. So a lot of the work that I'm excited to do in terms of democratives is because it's about fundraising my sister, we were talking earlier about what that means, how we actually need to work in collective and how we need to gather people to raise funds. Because part of it means that if I'm going to have an active voice and I live in the Volta region and I haven't had a decent education, or I live in the north, then I also need to take care of my family. I also need to take care of my wailing mother and all these things. So I can speak up, but I have to eat. And so one of the aspects is how do our projects, our programs encourage and support young people to generate from what they have. And that can be from their talent as performing artists, as visual artists, as media people, and it can be as teachers, and it can be as doctors, nurses. It's about also giving them the ability to actually generate something that can keep them going. And the other thing is the diversity and the versatility of the arts, is that we know that for advocacy we need to tell stories. And I love your storytelling, by the way. Such a blessing, really moving. And to tell the story, we can use the arts. We also need to engage. So for us to reach out to those who can't usually be reached, we can use the arts. We can do it in our music. We can do it in our visual arts. And then the statistics. Sometimes we can't understand what these statistics mean, but my brother was talking about how we can use the arts to actually teach people things that are quite scientific or mathematical or really abstract. And so for me, it's both sides. It's to empower through economic means, but also to reach out and educate through ways that are easily relatable.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kwe. Round of applause for Kweku Act. Bright.
The final thoughts that I'd like to put across is that in this very experimental practice, it's not always easy. So certain rewards like money and fame and should not be the focus of any young creative who wants to take up this responsibility. You know, there are more meaningful results in the long run, which are going to outweigh any, instant gratification you may receive if you were doing any other kind of work. But, using art for advocacy on any issue at all, especially on a critical national issue, is a responsibility that once you step into the art making space, you would have to take up. The practice will call for it, so maybe you should be encouraged in the sacrifice. And always older artists who are already plying and experimenting on those routes have always been open to mentoring younger people. So personally, anytime I had some problems, I knew the kinds of people I could go to and speak with and find some potential solutions. And so I have tried to do that for anybody else who needs it. So if anyone is out there and they feel like they want to take up this responsibility, there is already a community that you can tap into for resource, some kind of resource, motivation, inspiration, and yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you, Bright. Thank you. You want to? Okay, so let me just take the final, then I'll come to you. I think someone has been touched to speak. Winifred, are you there? Hi, Winifred.
Hello, please, I'm
Hi.
here.
Great. So, Winifred, we just want to take your final thoughts and comments on what we've been discussing today.
Can you hear me,
Art as
please?
Advocacy. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Winifred, can you hear me? Winifred? Okay, I'll come back to Winifred. Joseph.
Well, you guys have said it all, so no, I'm joking. But what I'm about to say is just a cliche. I think being on this, thread, on this path, we need to be highly committed. There will be obstacles, but we have to keep the objective, in mind. And no matter the obstacles that we encounter, once we have the ultimate goal,
please. Yes, please. I
I
can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please. Yes, Yes, please. I can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Okay, can we mute Winifred for now, and then we'll come back to her. Joseph, please.
Yeah, we should keep the objective in mind. We might encounter obstacles, but the ultimate goal should be our motivation. That's all I want to add to the discussion. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Round of applause for Joseph. Now, while we sort Winifred's, network issues out, there's a gentleman who wants to say something. Okay.
So I'm Jonah with CDD Ghana and on the Democratives project. So I've been working with them. Thank you. So I'm sure one of the sessions in the course of the week, CDD Ghana will have the chance to talk about how we do our advocacy and the kind of work we do. But then an aspect is, of course, leveraging on arts to try to capture the minds of the populace and also, reach, how the last time I was here, I used the Stop AIDS, Love Life example and the kind of impact it made. And so that's what we are looking at. We're also doing this with Wadimos, which is like a regional project. And so it's not just a Ghana thing with Democratives, it's the whole West Africa. And that's why we launched it in Nigeria with MI and the others. But this is just to say that for this year, when we were talking about resources, it came to mind. We don't have so much funds, but we are trying to support creatives with what they do, and we are also trying to
We'll come to you.
As many creatives as possible. Provided what you are doing is democracy focused or pushing anything, governance, good governance, and the like, we are happy to partner with that. If it's even something across the sub-region, there are countries undergoing political transitions and human rights abuses, school, all of that. We cover all of that. So once your work touches on anything governance, democracy, and that's how come Doc saw what you did and was very, happy that, there's someone out there who already is doing something on his own that we can partner to, amplify the work they are doing. And so it's just to add that if you have a product, if you have an artwork, you have something, a mini project coming up that you want us to partner, someone, creatives out there who can kind of add their voice or who are willing, because not everything can be well financed, extensively financed by us, but once you are willing, you can add your voice, you have a platform, you have the reach and all of that. We are willing to work with you and to partner to grow this. Thank you. So that's just that.
Thank you so much, CDD. Thank you. Now, I think that's a very apt contribution you just made, and thank you. CDD, of course, is one of the partners for the evolution of dreams. Now, it's up because, in Ghana and much of Africa, we don't really have arts grants. Now, most of the work that we do is very ephemeral, and it's ephemeral in the sense that even when it lives on a canvas or on a page or now on a stage via digital or it's archived, once you've put it out there, unless you're selling it, how do you make money from it? And you need to keep creating. So a lot of creatives end up selling their souls for commercial viability. And then that's where we lose the ability for the artist to still be the advocate that he or she is supposed to be. So what you're doing is very important. I want to thank you for that. Okay, thank you very much. And for the creators, it's not just about making money. It's about having money to continue the art. That's what we are saying, to continue the work. Because most of the time, that's what our money goes into anyway. You make the money, it goes back into the craft for the purpose of the advocacy. There's another comment, question, suggestion, deletion.
It's a question.
Okay.
Please, I'm Eric Kwache, and I work with Rocky Dawino Foundation. I'm the executive secretary of the foundation, and he asked me to come and represent the foundation and him My question is, I read on social media and through my course of reading, a lot of times I read articles and I see the citations or quotes, a lot of times from the West, Washington, JF Kennedy. How is the arts and culture space doing to preserve our intellectual property of those gone ahead of us, which equally I believe they have the potence of wisdom, the potence of intellectual prowess, that we could be referring to them to preserve them for the current generation and posterity to cherish it and for it to preserve it. And my second is with my boss, who is known as a global activist and a legend, of course. And the work he does in advocating for social issues, we are also open for equally organizations that we share common mission with, to partner to continue the good work we are all doing for preserving the mother Ghana we've been blessed with. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And our greetings to Big Brother Rocky. He is a brother. And knowing him, I know that if he were available, he would have been here himself. I mean, he doesn't see global stardom as a veil. He doesn't use it as that at all. I can say that personally. But to answer your question, why we are not seeing our greats being quoted and whatnot. Now, I'm going to give you two reasons. They are not excuses, but it is what it is. One of them, we talked about education. I think different people on the panel mentioned education at different times. Now, recently, Ashasi is here. So recently, somewhere in May, we had, I don't know if we all know about the International Baccalaureate Program, the IB program. Now, I'm an IB alumna, and I taught in the IB space as well. Now, for the very first time, the Director General of the IBO and the entire board of the IB came to Ghana, and in fact, to the continent as a group. And this happened in May, and many of the conversations that happened on Ghanaian soil happened at Ashesi when they were here. Now, I was invited as an alumna and also as someone who sort of plays in the education space to come and just really tell them, what do you think? We had to give presentations. There were lecturers, as well, researchers, educators in IB. It was maybe just about 10 of us. But what do you think the IB can do to have more, the way the Director General puts it, was to have more Africa in the IB and more IB in Africa. So you know how I did my presentation. I started it by doing a performance. That was one. And the performance is of a poem that I titled Educated Dreams, speaking of dreams. But it tells a story of a young lady who comes from a very destitute background, a story that's not new to any of us. We've heard it over and over again. She's come from a destitute background. Free SHS came. She's gone to school, but her parents still don't have money. She can't afford sanitary pads. She can't afford food. It's a whole thing. Her parents can, only even send one child to school at a time. Because even though there's free SHS, how do we also send you with provisions, all that? And she's asking herself, or she keeps telling herself, that I deserve to be a self-sufficient, educated woman. And the poem is asking, how can that be if it doesn't mean hawking on the streets of Accra, being raped at night, being cheated by selfish customers, if she's working as a kayayo, or having to sell her lady parts, sex as a currency. It's very common in our parts. We want to pretend it's not, but it is, So I started with that, and I carried Kinke and Gary and Huintia and Sobolo, the hibiscus, dried hibiscus, all of those things. And I told them to experience them, and I said to them that these things are critical parts of our economy, but you will probably never be able to experience them. And then, unfortunately, a lot of people who have an IB education probably don't even interact with these things because their parents have cooks, they don't go to the market, there's a driver. And the board chair of the IBO, she is an indigenous person from Australia. She was so blown away. And so our conclusion there was that our education needs to change. If we understand right from the classroom that you're referencing your question directly now, that you know what, all the things that we do, the way we understand things, the way we perceive things, it has to start from the classroom. We'll be on a better tangent. That's one, okay? Now the second thing I'll just say very briefly to add to that is that we do not have our publishing system in Africa is different. A lot of the quotes we see people quoting on social media, they're picked from books or published articles or compilations, journals and whatnot. Our publishing system is different. Don't forget, we come from a very oral tradition, and without even realizing, we are still operating orally. So whereas in other parts of the world, you have agents, there's a whole chain for the business of a writer or a speaker, where these things are well documented, well filed, make it into libraries, make it into everything is well coordinated. That doesn't exist here. So if you're lucky and you have a platform and your voice is heard and your quotes are picked, then maybe someone will remember to quote you. But again, many of these young people are quoting people who they read when they were in school. So if our books, our journals, our research is not making it into the classroom down the line, how are our young people going to see these things, for these things to resonate with them? I study political science. The first thing you learn about democracy is that democracy is what? And who said it? Abraham Lincoln. So even in my political science lecture hall, my very first introduction to democracy was Abraham Lincoln. You understand? So we have a lot of work to do, but these are some of the things. So as we're talking about arts, let's also remember the literary arts. These days, because of the way we do things, performance has come to the forefront, but we have very solid writers. And most of the time when we have our literary festivals, the biggest one we have in Ghana, one of the biggest in West Africa now actually is the Peja Festival, happens in Accra. Most of our funders are diplomatic entities because corporate Ghana can't be bothered. Now, if corporate Ghana can't be bothered, how now do they even see, because they have the power, they have the voice, they have platform. So the media will do what we can. But there are certain corridors of power that decide not to listen to media because they've checked out. They don't want to hear what you have to say because they feel you're jabbing them all the time. But those are some of the reasons. But basically, and big on the ticket is, it needs to enter our educational system. We need to be reading our greats, listening to our greats. And that's why what Joseph is doing is extremely important. Bringing living legends right into the classroom and talking about pop culture with the students and showing them what that means for our society, for our future anthropology. You know, it's very important. But the classroom is a critical playing field for that. And unfortunately, we haven't decolonized it.
I mean, just a little bit to add to what you just said. The other thing is that our educational system has made it to be ashamed of our own people. So, for example, I've seen works written on hip life. Right. One of the earliest papers on hip life was written by a Ghanaian in 2009. And then you have others, you know, with more funding, writing books, etc. And I continue seeing theses, University of Ghana, UCC, KNUST, on hip life. And the earliest work on hip life is not quoted. So again, talking about decolonization, right? We need to decolonize our minds and flip it around and say, like, we need to go back and cite our intellectual ancestors, right? And by doing so, we begin to correct some of the things that we just mentioned. We should quote ourselves first, and then the others. But if you quote, Guggenheim, 2018 on Hip Life, it sounds, flashy because X, Y, Z. But I talk too much and I digress.
Okay, anyone else? Or our fires are calm now. Okay. Winifred, can we have her now? We need to hear our final comments.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Winifred, where are you? Where are you?
Yes.
There you are. We want to take your final thoughts and comments on all that we've been discussing today.
Okay. And I would like to say that there's power in all of us, our voices, all of us seated here, those inside and those who are outside, in their homes listening. There's power in our voices. Whatever that, it doesn't matter whether you have a crown on your head or not. We are all kings and queens, and we have to speak up. We have to be an advocate for the problems that we are facing around. It could be by experience, like earlier on from what I said, that I was experiencing all the environmental pollution and all that, like how people were defecating, on the shores and all that, or at the shores. And with that experience, I was able to, come up with something, and also got to know that these are the things that, causes climate change. So I have to use my experience to speak up, to educate people on how best we can fight. And also from throughout my journey, how I started, I've gone through a lot. There were so many obstacles, and I didn't really mind. I didn't let that limit me. I had a dream, and all that mattered was for me to go for the dream. I just have to go for it, and nothing was going to stop me. I didn't really care about how I was going to achieve my dream. I only cared about I didn't care about what I can do to achieve those dreams, but to just go for it. I was just going for it. So, and also I'd also want to say this, that when someone offers you an opportunity and you don't you don't understand or believe it, you just have to go for it and then learn to do it later. So please, that's what I would like to say for now.
Round of applause for Winifred.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to all of you. You've been such a brilliant audience, so you can clap for yourselves too. Now, this has been the Evolution of Dreams. It's the GIMPA Arts and Culture Exhibition. Okay, it's a month-long event. It's a dream on its own, and it's really about using the power of art to showcase the dreams that Ghanaians have. And then, furthermore, through this initiative, we are raising funds for the GIMPA Endowment Fund so that more and more young people can go to school. We can't do it all, but we can do some. And when you do some, other people see, and they also do some. And then it becomes a bigger effort that can yield bigger results. That's what we're doing. Now, within this month, we're having a series of panel discussions. Today, we've been talking about arts and advocacy, and I've had a very rich panel. We've had two gentlemen join us from the CDD Demo Creatives, but they are individual creatives in their own right, okay? We have Ye, and also known as Nyama Mensah, who is a musician and multi-talented artist, really. Kweku Act, he's the founder of the Our Collective, and look, they're doing a lot of amazing things. Today we've also learned that he's a teacher, he's into wellness, so many different things, and usually that's what happens with creatives, right? It's so many different parts. We have Bright Akwe. Bright Akwe is a celebrated Ghanaian visual artist. He's been doing a lot of advocacy, hardcore advocacy, I must say, with his work, and it's been great to have him here today. He also painted a very beautiful image, which is also at the center of the Evolution of Dreams this month. it's based on or inspired by a young lady, Tenny Agana, who went to Ashesi, by the way. She was your student, she was Joseph's student. And Tenny's story is special because she was a kayayo, a head porter, and through her own chasing of dreams, eventually got a scholarship and high-level education. And she's one of the advocates for what we are doing here this month. And then, of course, we have Joseph, who he doesn't like us to throw all his accolades out there, but keeping it very simple, he's an anthropologist, he's an art collector, he's a curator, and he's the director of a very important institution within the Ashesi community where pop culture, African pop culture is centered. And he's taught us a lot of the interesting things that he's doing in his class. And I think that's what education should look like in the 21st century. We've also had Queen Winifred Sam, who is Miss Earth 2024, joining us virtually. She's a strong advocate for the environment, so strong that she's the queen of Earth advocacy. All right, and my name is Apioko Sarah Mashong Abe. I am a poet and author. I'm a media practitioner, creative entrepreneur, and I'm also the head of programs production at Channel 1 TV and City FM here in Accra, which is these two entities also partners of the evolution of dreams, because we do believe in dreams. Thank you, everybody. To all our other partners, Asase Inscriptions, Linus Communications, Nana Asase himself. We've got CDD, who has been ably represented here. There are many, many, many. But I want to say a big thank you to the Day Center, because they're hosting the visual arts exhibition for the month, and they've hosted us here today for this particular panel discussion. And thank you to all partners, everyone who believes in this dream. Let's continue to dream together. Now, for those who are here, Ghanaians, we like food, and it's item 13. So there's some food. It's not a whole fufu and a benkwantin going on, but it's something that can fill your belly. So please, those of you who are physically present, you can stay. Those of you who have joined us virtually, we'll put the camera on us so you can watch us eat and dream about eating through the cameras. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our work here is done.